I don't know if we're live. Are we live? Hi. This is so awkward because I don't know if we're live, but I'm going to assume we are. I'm going to do a dance. There's a chat right there. If you are on YouTube, I can see you writing on the YouTubes. So it'd be really nice if you tell me if you can actually see me. Hi. So this is a webinar and I am the one speaking, but I'm also the one managing this. The bow. Okay, you can see me. Hi, how are you? How are we doing? How's life? Life is a little bit weird right now. A lot of things happening in the world. And even with all of that weirdness and all that stuff that just like might make you angry and nervous and anxious, you're still here. You made it. Thank you. That's really kind of you. We're going to be sharing a moment. I should have music or something, right? Music is in your head, okay? Come on, do a little dance with me. Tum 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 tum. Let's wait for some people to arrive. Tum 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 tum. I have a lot of props, as you can see. Tum 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 tum. Okay, so I think we're ready. Thank you so much for joining us. As I already told you, today we're going to be doing a presentation. We're going to be doing a little like a webinar thingy. I'm the only one managing all this thing. So I warn you, there are going to be a lot of technical difficulties, I'm sure. And I'm trying this new thing called Restream, which is pretty cool because apparently it just like streams to different places. It's not just one place. Maybe you're on YouTube. Maybe you're on the LinkedIn's or Facebook. I think it's just like putting this stuff everywhere. Which I love because I'm a huge spammer. I have no shame. All this content, all these sources, and I'm just like everywhere. Hey, look at me. Look at what I have to say. That's me. So, okay, so let's start. Yeah, so by the way, there is a thing. Let me share my screen. Share the screen. You can see my screen. Look at that. How cool is that? So there's this thing. So if you want to go over there and actually, this is slido.com/Pablo. How cool is that? Slido.com/Pablo. You'll be able to ask questions there. And I think there's a poll or something. So you can share a little bit about where you are and all that stuff. So let's begin with our presentation with a keynote because I am a professional that actually has something prepared here. And that was not the slide that I wanted to start with. There you go. So that's it. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Pablo Stanley. Soy Pablo Stanley. I am a designer. That's me, as you can see. Sometimes I figured out a way to just like add more arms to my body. And that's how you say designer in Spanish. Diseñador. Now say it with me. It's like Dora the Explorer. Say it with me. Diseñador. Now, if you're a woman, this is how you say it in English. Sorry, in Spanish. Diseñadora. Say it with me. Very good. Today we're going to be talking about illustration systems. Look at that GIF. It's all about the systems. And also, I'm going to be doing a promotional ad about Blush, which is a product that a couple of friends and I we just launched recently. Well, a lot of friends because a lot of illustrators were involved in this project too. And this is the agenda. Like 90% of this is going to be about me. And then we're going to get into the rest of the presentation. There's going to be a little bit of story time. We're going to be talking about why using illustration is important. Also, we're going to be talking about Blush, the thing that I told you. And then we're going to be doing a demo about Blush too. So let's get started. Oh, yeah. And before we get started, actually, like I was telling you before, there's this QR code. If you have a camera and a phone or something, you can go in there and ask, be part of the poll or ask questions. And we only have 1 hour, so I'm going to be try to go quick. And speaking about time, let's go back in time. For the past couple of years, I've been thinking about answering these questions about like illustration systems, how to use them. But before that, before I was asking those questions to myself, I was actually just a little boy back in Mexicali. That's my hometown. It's a border town in Mexico. And that's me. And my first job as I don't know if as a designer, but I was working in the design business, I guess. And this was back in 1999. I was making vinyl stickers for stores and like ads and cars. As you can see here, I was putting flame stickers on the sides of cars. I don't know, just to make them look faster or something. That's what the clients wanted. Yeah, so then after that, I was installing them, but I wanted to be the one that actually designed them. I was like, I want that job. I want to be that person that decides what colors to use and decides how the flame is going to look. So I learned a little bit of a computer to use the buttons and the mouses. And I started being a designer. And so I wasn't only installing the stickers, I was also designing them. Then I was lucky, fast forward 14 years later, and then I went to San Francisco to do a collaboration with a startup over there in the Silicon Valley. And I actually, like, weirdly enough, making comics. That's where it started. And while I was there, I told them, hey, by the way, I'm also a designer. So I was lucky enough to just be offered a position as a UX designer at a company, at a startup. I did not know what a UX designer was. I was very confused, but it sounded like it was pretty easy because there were just a lot of boxes and text and colors. And I was like, come on, really? Okay, cool. Yeah, I can totally do that. And also, there were a lot of apparently Post-its involved. So I fell in love with it, with the whole product design, UX, storytelling, whatever you want to call it. I really liked it. And that's the rest is history, I guess. Here's some of the companies that I worked on. The first one that accepted me as a UX designer, knowing that I was not a UX designer, I was just someone pretending to be one, was at Udemy. And then started a company called Carbon Health. Then I worked at Envision, and currently I'm working at Lyft. But now, let me tell you about that thing that I was telling you, that how I started in San Francisco, like making comics. While I was working there as a startup, I actually started a comic series called The Design Team. And I know you're going to be like, Pablo, why are you talking about comics? What it's all part of the story, okay? So I started this comic series called The Design Team. And it just like follows the lives of a team working at a startup in Silicon Valley, and it just talks a bit about my experiences moving there to everything that I was telling you that I was when I was there. And one thing when I was doing this comics that I started doing was doing these character sheets just to be more efficient with my production of the comics. So I would just like create something like this. This is Petunia. And I would create the character. And then I would just like how this character looks on the side, on 3/4 from the back, and just like even start adding colors. And this would just like help me, again, be more productive later because So the character will be consistent across all the comics. And this is just like different expressions from the same character. The same I did with other characters. For example, this one is called Paul, which is pretty much just me. But I suppose like in Paul, I was not very subtle with how should I call this character that looks a lot like me. I suppose no, Pablo, no, that would be too obvious. Let's call him Paul. So that's Paul. As you can see, Paul also has I don't know, variations of how the things he wears. But it was all part of the system, right? It's just like how to see this character in different clothing. And here you can see how all the characters like fit together, and how I was able to define the different colors that every character had. And it is like not something new. This is something that in cartoons and like animation, they do this. This is a basic stuff that you do with characters. So this is what I was doing just to be more efficient. But I tell you this because it's going to be we're going to be coming back to this later. This you can see the different sides from the same character, just like rotating its head. The same here, just a little bit higher fidelity. By the way, this character called Gabs, she was based in a real person. That was my version of Gabs. She was also a designer that I worked at Udemy. And this was Frances. She was also a real person. As you can see, she has always a wide range of emotions. But but yeah, and yeah, this was us, and this were the characters. And by with these character sheets, I was able to just like create these characters in the world really easily. Then after that, whenever I work on product and use design, something that I tend to do is just like I try to push the idea of using doodles on product. For example, here in Carbon Health, I was trying to like, hey, should we like tell a story of what we're offering with illustrations, just to make a concept just like easier to understand, and to I don't know, to onboard people about something new. And I mean, it's healthcare, so it can be a little bit scary, like their health, and just like are they okay? How are they doing? How I don't know, the prescription plan and all that stuff. Then just like using illustration to feel, making that part of the experience to make them feel safe. And also to teach them about a specific skill, something that is also scary, right? Where it's like you're going to learn something that seems very complex and just like so big. Like, could we use illustrations to just like minimize that amount of, I don't know, like a weirdness in the beginning of something. And then I started playing around with the idea of like illustration systems. This was at the same time when design systems were starting to be a big thing. And I think design systems started to be a bigger thing, I think, with designers. This is my theory. One of the reasons that it started like being a boom is just that like tools actually started allowing designers to create design systems in their tool, in what they were creating. So for example, Sketch started allowing the use of libraries, and these libraries to be used not just in one document, but across different documents. So then suddenly you had one source of truth for everything in your system, and which is just like buttons, all your typography, all of your colors, all of that stuff. And while I was using this, I was like, hey, you know what? What about illustrations? What about these little characters that I might be using here and there? So this is how I started pushing the boundaries a little bit of what the tool did. And this allowed me to just like do different things with this. And this is not relevant actually. But here also, like how to apply this also on the branding side. So this got me thinking about, okay, this was just like an experiment with a real product, but how can I put this out there for others to use And I started experimenting with more with illustration libraries where everything is modular. You can change not just the whole illustration as a whole, but the elements inside the illustration. So, for example, when you are designing, creating a design system, you are designing all the elements, all the atoms, right? And those atoms are part of, I don't know, a molecule, and then those molecules are part of an organism. I mean, you're following the Brad Frost atomic design. So, could we do this with illustrations and with doodles? That was the question that I was asking myself. And that's when I started like creating these illustration libraries. And this is coming from all the things that I was telling you, like the character sheets, right? The different positions and the different variants, and also the style guides, creating for like when I was creating different things for different branding, and also component libraries with design systems. How can we merge all of these things together and create something? And that's going to start one illustration library called avatars. And the idea here, very simple, but with like an amount of elements that once you combine them, then you have a ton of variants, right? Whereas you can change the expression of the eyebrows, the hair, the expression on the mouth, like how the mouth looks, the clothing. And by changing all of these things, then you could create yourself, or you could create your team. But all of this, again, with the power of design systems, but apply to illustrations. Then I started creating one that was for robots. Nobody used this one, by the way. Nobody downloaded it. I'm a little bit resentful. Nobody liked it. Look at those robots. Chatbots were starting to be a big thing. So I was like, obviously, everyone is going to be using this one. Nobody used it. It's okay. Look at that. They were responsive. That was part of the challenge here with this illustration system, where it's like, can we make a system of illustrations that, however you size them, they're going to look good? Then I started one little thing that this were like all the elements here were not as modular. It was very simple, just like changing the color of it. And this was Open Doodles. And I put it out there for free. Just like, hey, use it. A lot of people didn't like that I did that. It's okay. But it was this. And it was just like different sketches that I would do on my iPad or actually on paper while taking meetings. Because sometimes when I'm in meetings, a good way for me to concentrate is actually doing doodles. And I just put them out there for other people to use. But this was the starting point of like, hey, how can we make it easy for other people to just start using them really easily and just like change even the colors on it without having to use a design tool? So I was able to work with an engineer, Fang Penlin. She was super talented, and she helped me make this a reality. Then another thing that I worked on, like I had done the faces and I had done that part, and robots too, apparently. But I hadn't done like the whole human body and like making all those elements mixable like Legos. So this is when I made this illustration library called Humans. And with this one, you can change the whole element of the head, the torso, and the legs. And this allowed people to just like create their own characters, build on top of it, like transform it, and just like use it on whatever they wanted, and just like even customize it and make different rotations of the elements, for example, like that. And even just like use it on different pre-built scenes that they could customize to. Look at all the stuff. Look at all that stuff. Look, and people use it. Actually use it. It wasn't like the robots. This was actually, people actually downloaded this one. I suppose it's because they were not robots. They were actually people. I think that's a clue on this. And yeah, so after Humans, I wanted to work on something different. So I wanted to work on something meaningful. So I started sketching some ideas. I tried different forms and styles, applying everything I have learned so far and put it into one project that really reflected my passions. This is when I started. Here's a peek into the process of creating these illustration systems that are very serious, by the way, uh, very into it. So you can see I started also just like figuring out how all of these like work inside a system, just like how everything is connected, and it's something that would just resonate with people. That's what I wanted. Here are some of those wireframes. So I came up with a library that other people could use in their pitch deck and product screens and marketing campaigns and just like business presentations and just like motivational speeches. That was the intention, just like really touch people's hearts. So I did a website too where people could get all their assets. I made it responsive too. Put a lot of effort into this. Had a board to track my progress. Look at that. And even you can use this to communicate with people in a more delightful way with stickers. This was my favorite because it really expresses a brand, your brand. This could be your brand. So I put it out there. It's called Bots. I also started playing around with the idea of what do you call this? Variable fonts. And variable fonts, but also with expressions. I haven't finished this one. I need to finish it. But the idea that you with controlling an axis, like you would control like the weight or the width of a font, like could you control also emotions on different characters in a font? So this is coming soon. Another one that I did, just like I'm going to be finished. It's Open Peeps, and Open Peeps. Sorry, these ones have music apparently. But the idea is just like, again, the human body, but also like, can we make it look like it was hand drawn? So, it was hand drawn. And again, all of these components, they're all the same component, and this component just like customize it and creates multiple different variants like this. So now, after all of that stuff, I want to talk a little bit about illustration in product. And before I start, I want you to take what I say with a grain of salt, because I'm going to be talking about principles and guidelines and sometimes that all that stuff can be a little bit too prescriptive, sorry. So just take whatever works for you and then challenge the rest. Okay. So the question is, why use illustrations in products? And I think illustrations are a powerful tool to communicate something that sometimes cannot be expressed with just words alone, and introduces the brand and can manage and can manage to make more human and relatable a brand with just doodles. I mean, how cool is that? And I think some of the benefits I find are that it creates a connection, trust, and just the presence. For example, companies can establish a strong connection with their users through images that expresses the company's human side, as you can see here with Intercom. And they can increase the reach and depth of the message of a company that wants to tell about itself. And it is more likely for customers to trust a company that is easily recognizable. For example, here with Envision and the type of illustrations that they use. How do you achieve this? Well, by having a consistent and relatable brand across the different platforms. So when should you use product illustration? This got a little bit too serious. I don't know if you've heard of horror vacuum. Have you heard about horror vacuum? It's just like a Dora the Explorer moment right now. Well, horror vacuum is this I don't know, like look at this. Have you ever felt like you need to fill up a space with elements like people and animals? Like, look at this. It's just like every little piece has something in it. And horror vacuum is this pretty much just like the fear of white space. Horror vacuum means like the fear of emptiness. And it's a really old term that goes back to the Baroque era. Uh, but last century, we started using it, horror vacuum, to criticize Victorian style, like here. That clutters up stuff with a lot of details and just feels really busy. I find it beautiful, by the way, but that's the thing here. And the criticism was that these spaces were just too distracting and uncomfortable because it's just like too heavy, and it also is something that just takes a lot of time and work to create. So then we saw a search and design that is like simple and minimal, like this church. And but I would say that this feeling is pretty human. Like I think we have all felt it. I don't know if as designers you have felt it, that we kind of I don't know. My cynical side feels that we need illustrations to quiet that fear, that horror that we have of white space. And we use these doodles to just, they're there to fill the void. I know that that's a little bit too cynical, but that's how I see it. But there's a good side of this because this void is not only felt by you, the designer, the one that is created, but it's also felt on the other side when it feels like there's something lacking here, that the message is not complete. I think on the other side, people can actually see that too. So, like, you know, when there's like, for example, here, I feel like sometimes you just want to feel everything in all the places. For example, the user could feel like frustrated or confused about what they have to do because they arrived to a place where there's nothing else to do. So there's nothing else, like, and it could be just very empty. So that can be frustrating. So maybe an image is there to quiet quiet that frustration. And there's a benefit, or if there is a benefit or a feature that is overlooked, like you could bring it up by just like adding something like this, like an image. And sometimes is the opposite when there's just too much text and you want to reduce the how heavy the text feels with an image that it also tells maybe the same message. And sometimes also you want to use it to celebrate a moment when something is finished, when you want to congratulate the person. For example, here in Grammarly, when you have finished, there are no more errors to check. Then an image can fill that void that happens, but just like make that void actually, I don't know, delightful. So an empty state, like an error or lost connection screen, like again, horror vacuum, and an onboarding flow too, just like on a walkthrough, or like I was saying also here, but also there's an upgrade. And I think illustrations can fill those voids that we all feel in a charming and just non-distracting way. So why an illustration system? I think an illustration system can make things feel cohesive. They're part of a brand's message and a personality and style. In short, that is part of a visual identity. And a brand benefits from an illustration system because it can translate the company's goals and turn them into a human language. And a successful system will integrate into the product and just like go into different places where it is and will connect with people to the brand. So how to use product illustration? The thing is that a beautiful illustration will never be enough. If you can create a cohesive narrative, your brand won't translate well to the people. So I think that a product illustration system should follow these steps. And this is where I was telling you that I was a little bit too prescriptive, but take whatever you want. I think it has to be a part of something bigger, they live in harmony with the design system. They're not just by themselves. So they take cues from the design system or the design style or the brand. And they portray the company's goal and just like their promises, like here on MailChimp. The style, the color, the typography, the language, the tone, the audience, they are all taking uh, they're all together in these illustrations. They work with that brand and they add value. They express a meaning. And so, how do you actually do it? How do you actually start a system? How do you actually start just even drawing? Well, I suppose, like one of the things that we've been doing with the different illustrators that we've been working on Blush is just like you start with just like finding inspiration, creating mood boards, sharing drafts and sketches and different iterations just to get some feedback. And which is just pretty much just like the design process at the end of the day. And then create and keep a style because you want to create a world where these characters and these illustrations and these doodles, where they live. But you also want to give enough like flexibility. That's something that I don't know. Like I feel like also with doodles, you don't want to be too prescriptive because you also want to allow creativity on the side of the artist where there's some room for doing something crazy. And yeah, some principles to follow. We're almost there before the demo. I think it has to be expressive. They add context and information where it's needed. And they can help describe new concepts in a quick way. They also they stay consistent and follow the rules that they set for themselves, for their team, for the people that are using it. And I think it's important to embrace diversity and be inclusive so the brand can reflect all types of people. And at the end of the day, you want to use them to tell a story, to so they can deliver a message. And like I was saying before, they're doodles, so they should be fun too. And they're just drawings, right? And you use your imagination and get a little bit weird. Why not? Just have fun. So, just to end this boring part, I think a brand illustration system needs to be human and can translate the company's goals into something that is understandable by people. And I think that's something that can be achieved with doodles. And they can be powerful tool to just like be like clear and loud and clear with a brand voice. And I think they can help connect with branding and the company. Okay, that was the boring part. Now let's get to Blush. So, this is all really weird when it's just by yourself and you cannot hear. I actually don't know if you're still there. I'm just talking to the camera. Hopefully you're still there. So let's talk about Blush. So Blush is this thing. It's a tool that just like it's trying to bring illustrations to everyone. This is a tool that a couple of friends and I created and in collaboration with a ton of different artists. And the idea was like, how could we just make art illustration more accessible to anyone? As I was doing before with the illustration libraries, I felt like there was still a filter, like you still needed to know a design tool to know how to use these illustration systems. And also, they were all just me. They were just like Pablo's illustration systems. I wanted to be other people's, not just me, other artists. So how could we champion illustrators around the world? And how can we use the power of systems and illustration? How can we make it modular? So even when you just click a random button, the illustration will still work and it will still look good and cohesive. And at the end of the day, what we want to do is just like allow people to bring art to digital content and digital experiences. And I suppose like the question is, why now? Why not? I think people want to tell stories visually. I mean, you're doing it already with all the memes and all the GIFs, right? Well, let's do it with illustrations too. Why not? So what's the problem? Yeah, I think there's no illustration systems tool out there. There are design systems tools, but I think something that is for illustration systems that are dedicated for that, uh, it's it's something that we're lacking. So that's what we're trying to fill, and that's why Blush is illustrations for everyone. Okay, enough with the pitch. Let's get to demo time. And before we get to demo time, let's see if you ask some questions. I'm actually going to, for the first time, see if you're still there. Are you still there? Let's see. Are you still there? Let me stop sharing. Still here. Thank you so much. You're still here. Awesome. Okay. Can you see me? What's going on? Why? Oh, enable camera. There you go. So hold on. You couldn't see my face all this time? I was just sharing my screen. You couldn't see my face. I was like acting and doing stuff like this. That's not cool. Anyway, can leave you midway. Okay, cool. So let's see if you have any questions. Let me share my screen again. And apparently, when I share my screen, the camera turns off. Yo, why do you? So apparently, you can only have one. Like you can only have the screen or the camera. It's okay. I suppose. Why would you want to see me? So let's see. Do you have video about how you create your 2D animation? When do you usually start thinking? Okay. Do you have video about how you create your 2D animations? Can you show how? Okay, I'll get to that. When do you usually start thinking about illustration? And there are music ever overlap with your illustration design words? Yeah, actually, yeah. How do you check for diversity in your chosen illustrations? Or company got call out. Oh God, hold on. Sorry. How do you check for diversity in your chosen illustrations? Or company got call out on it last week, even though we're chosen by a diverse group of people. I think something that we actually did in Blush, and let me give you a demo of it. For example, let's use this one that is called Happy Bunch. Something that we did is like the first thing is just like the very basic, which is like the skin color. Skin color, just make it really easy to just change this. And not only that, but whenever you randomize, it randomizes not only the elements but also the skin color. So I think like having a color palette that like embraces all types of people, it's important. I think also, for example, let me show you something, a system that Bonnie Kate Wolf created. It's called Open Figures. And she also, I think, did a great job including different people with different uh, different abilities. And hold on, let me go back. So, like, there was specifically part of the design of someone using a wheelchair. Uh, for example, another one, this one is says one that I made. It's called Open Peeps. Um, Something that I made sure to add was just, for example, people with, yo, by the way, what the hell is going on there? People with that it's just like a lot of people don't have only the two legs, but actually only have one, but they use uh, uh, different apparatus to support their other leg. So like include those kinds of things. And I think how do you achieve that? I think it's asking questions and just put it in front of other people, like in front of a diverse group of people. And sometimes we forget these kinds of things, and it's not because we're evil or we don't do that with malice. I'm sure it's just like sometimes we're not thinking about that, so it's not in our minds. And since it's not in our minds, it just we forget, So I think a good strategy is just like putting it in front of a lot of people, and then they will tell you the things that you are not doing, that you're forgetting. So, and be open to hearing what people tell you. I think that's key, and understand that you're not going to be able to know all the different uh, illustrations that and all. You're by default not going to be as diverse as you want, because you have your own biases, and we all have our own biases, and we all have the things that we that are on our memories and that we think of quickly, so if you are able to just like acknowledge that we all have our biases and just like open it up so other people can give us their feedback, I think that helps. So okay, so hopefully that answered your question. Let me go to actually do a demo. And I'm going to do a demo. Oh, yeah, first, let me do a demo of an illustration system that was created. And this was by Bonnie Kate. And this is actually public on her profile. And she created a playground so you can play around with these elements. But here is how she created the system. So as you can see, there's something that we call put in folders called master. This is an illustration system for Blush. So this is how we detect the elements inside it. And then the master is actually calling different elements that, for example, the head, all of the upper bodies, all of these, and then the lower bodies. So all of them are in the same position, the same height, the same they're all very precisely put, so they always fit together. Even the expressions. The expressions are actually an element that goes inside here. So then once you put it, they look like this. And Bonnie Kate, she also did some scenes, and then these scenes can be mix and match to create just scenes like this. Now, let me show you one that I made in Sketch. And this one, I went with a different route, where the elements actually have like it's different clothing. It's the same clothing, but the same clothing has different positions. So waving and just like another sort, like a kind of waving, and just like stride. I don't know. They look a little bit roboty too. I was just like, I don't know what I was doing, but open arms and just like close arms and just pointing or like grabbing something. And then all of those positions are also in different clothing. So all of those are become like assets. As you can see, different clothing, different positions. And then also I did the lower body. The lower body comes in standing form and also sitting form. And then all the heads, and the heads are in different hairstyles or different accessories that they have. I just tried to keep it a little bit simple. I could have done the accessories on top of the hairstyle, but just to keep it more simple, I did it this way. And yeah, the expressions, which are part that go on top of it. At least it's very simple to just like figure out how to do this with characters. With characters, upper body, lower body, different positions, you mix them up. And then they start playing around with the idea of just like creating compositions that are also mixable. For example, create this astronaut, and this is an astronaut over here that is a master, but this astronaut also has its own positions. But then it's part of a scene that is specific to the astronaut. So all the elements here, for example, this planet, there are multiple planets that are also mixable. So you can change that planet to this planet or other planets. And also these star systems are also part of that composition. So if you didn't like this star system, you could create another one. And also even the blob on the back, you change it, and then there are different variations of that blob. And now let's see it live. Let's see it in action. For example, here, this is part of a Happy Bunch. There's an astronaut composition. Here, by the way, you can try this on the web if you go to blush.design. And as you can see, you see it here live. You can just customize a specific part, so you could just click random until something kind of good, you arrive to a kind of good composition, just like that. And you can also here on the web, you can add a background color if you want to. But that's the idea, where you can customize, get really granular on the control, and also you can just like click random. I think one of my favorite parts is just clicking random until something cool comes up. And yeah, that's pretty much the basics of how we create these systems. Like you can create here, you can see different scenes too, and all the elements are also mixable. They're just hanging out, but you can see one where the hair and the expressions are different on these characters. So that's how you create a system. Now let's actually use it. And we're going to do it in a landing page. So over here, I have a landing page on Figma. And on Figma, we created a Blush, a plugin. You can go to, hold on, can I go here? Go to plugins, and it's here. It's actually one of the feature plugins. So you can go here and you can install it. There are some things that you can do, but let me show you quickly. So for example, all of these are actually illustrations from different libraries, from different systems. This one is from an artist called Susana Ortiz. And if you open the Blush plugin, you just go to plugins and then open Blush. Then the same experience that you had on the web. But here, the cool thing is that it's all in context. So you can just select, for example, that illustration, and then you can change that specific illustration. So for example, this one also, the image here, you can randomize, or you can select a different one. So instead of a squiggle, this one, I want it to be this one. And it just changes. Look at that. You can change it to PNG, or you can change it to SVG. And that way it gives you more control on the vectors. So for example, this character, if I wanted to change the color of the skin, or if I wanted to change the hairstyle, let's see, bunny ears, for example, I can totally do that. And then the character, you see the changes happening here. And again, all these happen from different illustration systems. This is a different collection. This is one called Squiggles, and this is one called also Squiggles, and this is the one from Susana Ortiz. I was mixing them up. This is the one from Susana Ortiz. Susana, as you can see, all the artists are here. They have their own page, and you can see all the illustration libraries that they have created. But yeah, select the image, and then you can change it. I really love this one because you can actually change, well, the background, but you can also change on these. They're just like dedicated to plants, and you can change the vase, and you can also change the plant on top of it, which is, by the way, this was all hand painted. This is an actual painting that she painted, and she took photos of it, and then we vectorized it. But these were like hand painted, which I thought it was super cool because Susana is a classic painter artist. So all of these, for example, let me do a demo of like selecting multiple. So you can select multiple of these images and then just randomize all of them. Or if you want to change the vase on all of them to be this one, then it changes the vase on all of them to be that one. And if you want to, for example, let's say that you have this illustration. Let me zoom in. And you do like the vase. So you want to keep clicking random. So if you click random, it randomizes everything inside it, but maybe you do like the vase. So this vase, I love it, the pot. So so then you only change the other stuff. So for example, you only change the plant on top of it. So yeah, so that's it. Let's apply a new one. So those were already applied, but I'm going to use this one from BJ. This that is called Cruz, and Cruz is really dope, like because it has different scenes that are already pre-built, and you can just like combine them. So for example, this one is called Peaceful Place. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to put it here in the middle, and then all of the elements here are customizable. So you can just click random, and then suddenly you have a totally new illustration. Click random again, and it's a totally new one. And if you want to change something, for example, the expression, you want it to be a little bit, apparently this is the normal face. It looks like an evil face. I don't know if this is a normal face. It's like, this person has an evil plan. I have to say that. But I suppose it's just a normal evil plan. Let's make it a little bit happy. Happy teeth. Look at that. So yeah, you have the power of just changing all of this and across all your different projects. And if you are ready to just since this is SVG, you can just come in here, and actually here in Figma, you can just change the colors of anything. So instead of this yellow, if you want it to be, I don't know, like a blue purplish, you can just do that in wherever the yellow is being used. You can change it. For example, the red, let's see all the 9 colors. Let's say that the red, you want it to be just like a teal, something like that. Look at that. How cool is that? Ha. Let's apply a new one. And now, the one that I'm going to apply here, I'm actually going to use it on Webflow. That's going to be ending our demo today. So let's use one by let's use this one by Isabella. Isabella Humphrey created this really cool collection called Power Moves. I don't think I have ever seen illustrations like Isabella's. Isabella's did something awesome for you. You should try it out. Let me actually PNG instead. I'm going to try PNG large, and I'm going to use a mixable body. And when it's a mixable body, it just creates this element, and it's mixable because all the elements here you can combine them. So if you click randomize, then it combines all the elements inside it. So it's a totally different illustration every time you get a new illustration. So let's actually do 3 of those, and then let's randomize the hell out of them. 3 of them. Look at this. Look at those people. They're happy people there. Let's just use 1 of them, and I'm actually going to export these 2, and I'm going to try to use these. So I'm going to change this one, and instead of this one, I'm going to try this one. I think I like this one. Yeah. This is, I have to say, this is my favorite illustrations. No, I don't have favorites. It's one of my favorites. One of my favorite illustration systems by Isabella. So I have this image and I want to export it. So I'm going to group it and export this little fella. I'm going to export it to maybe a 2x PNG. Going to export it, call it yo. I'm going to put it on my desktop because we're going to be using this in Webflow. So I'm going to go here to Webflow. And here in Webflow, let's use that image here. So here in Webflow, all I have to do is just go choose an image, and then you can do this on your web development too, whatever you're doing. Let me go to desktop, and let's use the one that is called Yo. And Yo is uploading, and Yo, it's here. Apparently, it's not too big. No, it should be pretty big. Oh, you know what is going on? I think when I exported it, it has a lot of width. So actually, I should have done this. Yup. Yeah, I should have done this. There you go. Now let me export it again. I'm going to export Yo again. Let's export the Yos. And let's try it again. Let's replace the image with Yo. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. There you go. Now it's huge. Let's put a maximum width of I don't know, 800 pixels. No, 600 pixels. What do you say? Apparently, it did not work. 600 px. There you go. Yeah, something like that. Look at that. The cool thing is that all these images, you can export them to SVG or PNG. For example, here on the web, if you are not using Figma, you can just go to the web and just do the same. So let's export another one. Let's export from Diana. No, let's export from Elena. Elena created this one called Big Shoes. It's one of my favorites too. Everything is my favorite. As you can see, let's use this one that's called Happy Customer. She created pretty cool scenes. And look at those. Look at the style on those. It's just so dope. I love this one. It's just like, I don't know. I'm going to just download it, and you can download it as a large PNG, SVG. Let's download it as SVG. I'm going to download it. And you can also, by the way, you can also just copy the image link. And with the image link, you can, instead of, hold on, did it not download? There was an error, generate your illustration. Please try. Oh my God. Oh my God. The blue screen of death, apparently. Come on. It's not downloading. Well, apparently there's a problem on our website. But let's actually do it on over here on Figma. Let me do it on Figma real quickly. Happy Customer, that's the one we were making. There you go. Let's randomize. I think we can do better. Yeah. Oh, it's pretty similar to what we had before. So let's export it. Let's export it as PNG. It's PNG at 2x. Let's export it and Big Shoes. And let's go over here to Webflow and let's replace this image on the bottom. I think this one will be cool with that new image. big shoes, and then you got it. Okay, cool. So this was just a quick demo of how Blush works, talking a little bit about illustration systems. Let me go back over here and stop sharing and go back to this, enable my camera. Let's see what's going on here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me see if I have more questions over here. How portrays illustrations for one product to all match? You have video about when do you usually start thinking about illustration library strategy? When do you start thinking about that? I think it depends on like what you're doing with your brand, with your design system, like the message you're trying to convey, how like I think it's just in the ideation part, right? Where like what is the message that your company is going to be communicating, and from there you start seeing what are the mediums that you're going to be using. It could be video, could be photograph, or it could be illustration, or it could be a combination of all of those. But I would say illustration is not something that you maybe do. I think it's something that you should do, and you should find a way to how to use illustration effectively. And that the illustration is not. I would say that it doesn't always is the one is depending on your business, I guess, but it isn't the one that is dictating how the rest of the brand is. It's more like your brand. The strategy is the one that dictates how illustrations are used. So that's how I think. But it can be the other way around. I don't know. You're just like, I just need an excuse to use doodles. That can be the thing that is moving you. That's the fuel in your rocket. So if that's the thing, well, then let the doodles tell that story, the rest of the story of your brand. Why not? I'm a product manager, designer. I want to start getting into illustration. What's the step one? Well, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to create illustrations? If you want to create illustrations, then practice. I'm just reading the questions here, by the way. So just practice, a lot of practice, like anything, like start drawing and all that. Now, if you're saying like, I want to start getting into using illustration, then we'll see how others are solving their problems with illustration, how they are communicating with illustrations, and then start asking yourself if it is the right solution for you, like and to use it everywhere. I would say that in a lot of different places, it is the right thing to do, like the right way to communicate. Just like even just on zero states in the spots where there is a message that needs to alleviate a pain that your user might be feeling. So I think in those places you do want to have something else that communicates that message, and I think illustration can be that. Your endeavors in music ever overlap with your illustration? Music, yes. So as you can see, I make music too. So I think it's all related. Yeah, art, everything, dancing, making music, writing, doodles, all of that is related, I think, in some way. So if like I actually like when I started like making music with the computers, with Ableton Live, I started realizing how similar the process was to creating a poster, for example. This was years, decades ago, decades now. But just like creating a composition at the end of the day, right? Because you're creating a beginning, or a climax and an end, and you're using rhythm and you're using repetition, and all of that are like in a way also design principles that you also use in music. So there's all that stuff is related in a way. So, or I don't know, maybe I just see the relations because I want to, because as humans, we just want to see patterns and stuff. But yeah, but I would say that no, it is related, everything. Okay, we're going to finish this live. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, my hair. Oh my God, look at that. Thank you so much for joining us in this webinar weird thing that we did about doodles. I hope you stay safe and healthy over there. We're going to be doing another one of these in 2 weeks. That one is going to be a little bit more dynamic, and it's not just going to be me. I'm going to be the host. We're going to be inviting different artists to do different things. So hopefully you join us for those two artsy fartsy events. Bye bye.